Good evening, everyone. I will commence the meeting with the prayer. May we, the councillors of Ku-ring-gai, always be aware that decisions we make affect the daily lives of those we represent. May we make these decisions with knowledge and goodwill, respecting the views of others, and may we show ourselves worthy to follow in the footsteps of those who have protected the special qualities of Ku-ring-gai for over 100 years. Amen. On behalf of Council, I recognise the traditional custodians of the land and pay tribute to Elders past and present. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the October Ku-ring-gai Council meeting. Due to the COVID-19 situation, this Council meeting will be held remotely. Before the meeting begins, I will outline a few points regarding this evening's proceedings. During the meeting, councillors will appear on screen. Staff will only appear on screen if questions are directed to them by the council. Tonight's meeting will be live streamed on the council website at www.kmc.nsw.gov.au/live stream. The webcast of the meeting will remain on the website until the minutes of the meeting are formally adopted by Council. The live stream will commence once the Mayor is seated and will cease if Council goes into a confidential session where the public and press are excluded pursuant to Section 10A of the Local Government Act. Council meetings remain open to the public online, but speakers are now to address the Council through the monthly public forums and not at Council meetings. Again, due to the COVID-19 situation, the public forum preceding this Council meeting did not occur as normal. However, the public were encouraged to send in video, audio or written submissions, and 7 submissions were received. For more information about addressing Council during COVID-19, please visit our website at www.kmc.nsw.gov.au. All present tonight must refrain from engaging in disorderly conduct, publicly alleging breaches of the Council's Code of Conduct, or making other potentially defamatory statements. Councillors and Council staff must declare and manage any conflicts of interest they may have in relation to any item of business that is the subject of the meeting agenda this evening. Councillors, are there any apologies? Looks like everyone is here. General Manager, are there any staff apologies?
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest this evening? Councillor Nye.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For GB2, I declare a non-significant non-pecuniary interest in item GB2. I am a member of the East Linfield Community Preschool Management Committee, and the preschool has been recommended to receive a small equipment grant. While I had no awareness that such a grant application had been made, my children may no doubt benefit from the proposal, so I will remove myself while this item is being considered.
Thank you. Councillor Kay. You're on mute, Councillor Kay. Thank you.
Sorry. GB13, the Sustainable Recreation Advisory Group. I would like to declare a non-pecuniary less than significant due to knowing 2 of the applicants. I can't disclose how I know the applicants because that might actually be giving it away, unfortunately. But as the recommendation is voting on an increase from 6 to 8 members and 1 proxy, I'll also be leaving the chamber on this occasion when voting. Thank you.
Councillor Kay, you would like to turn your light off now, perhaps? Thank you. Documents circulated to councillors, please.
Just firstly, Madam Mayor, there are no declarations from the staff.
Oh, thank you.
In terms of documents circulated, Madam Mayor and councillors, just the Greens, which contains a late item GB15, Project Status Report, September 2020.
Thank you. Would you also please list the items or reports that are to be considered in closed meeting?
So, Madam Mayor and Councillors, no reports, but attachments for 3 items. GB1, which is Linfield Village Hub Update, Attachment 1. GB13, Sustainable Recreation Advisory Group, Attachment 1. And GB14, which is RFT 6 2020, Waste Collection Services, Attachments 1 and 2.
Councillors, I seek a motion that those items remain confidential. Moved Councillor Greenfield, seconded Councillor Pettit. All those in favour? That is unanimous. We move to confirmation of the minutes, and I seek a motion to confirm the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 22nd of September 2020. Moved Councillor Clark, seconded Councillor Greenfield. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. We have one mayoral minute, MM1, Centenary of the 1st Linfield Scout Troop. It is my happy duty to inform Council and our community of an historic achievement for the scouting movement in Ku-ring-gai, the centenary of the 1st Linfield Scout Troop. In late 1920, 3 Linfield boys, Don Isles, Bill South and Norman Nip Lawrence, approached school teacher Mr. Albert Woods at Gordon Public School to ask if he could be their scoutmaster. The boys knew that Mr. Woods had seen service in World War I at Gallipoli and in France, and that, coupled with his teaching experience, made them think he would be an ideal leader for their scouting activities. After some thought, Mr. Woods agreed to be their scoutmaster, and this decision led to the commencement and foundation of the 1st Linfield Scout Troop on the 22nd of September 1920. From small beginnings, the Linfield Scout Troop soon expanded and along the way marked some notable achievements. In its first year, in 1922, it attracted enough members to attend a national corroboree in Melbourne. In 1941, its clubhouse in Slade Avenue, still in use today, was officially opened by the Ku-ring-gai Mayor in 1941. The clubhouse was extended over the next decade to include rooms for senior scouts, rovers and cubs. In 1966, the clubhouse also became the base for local Girl Guides, but it was not until 51 years later, in 2017, that girls were formally admitted to the Scout Troop. Nonetheless, female Scout leaders have always had a strong influence at the 1st Linfield Scout Troop. One example was Lady Cub Master Miss Nola Beattie, appointed to the position in 1948. The scores of boys who passed through her care during 3 years between 1948 and 1951 greatly benefited from her ever-enthusiastic guidance. Since 1920, many Australian and Pan-Pacific jamborees, corroboree, senior ventures and rover moots have been held in Australia, and 1st Linfield has been represented at each one. Linfield was at the 9th World Jamboree in England in 1957, which was the Jubilee Jamboree held to commemorate 50 years of scouting and also the 100th anniversary of the birth of Baden-Powell. In 2017, the Linfield campsite was awarded the best of that year's corroboree out of 60 competing campsites. The senior troop and rover crew have grown in strength over the years and regularly hold major activities such as bushwalking in Tasmania at Christmas and ski trips in the wintertime. The 1st Linfield Scout Troop are a great example of community leadership and teamwork that continues to thrive to the present day. On behalf of the Council, I offer my congratulations and thanks to all who have served with the 1st Linfield Scout Troop. I move that this mayoral minute be received and noted. B, that the Mayor write to the 1st Linfield Scout Troop to congratulate them on the centenary. Are there any speakers on this item? If not, oh, sorry, Councillor Nye.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'd also like to, as we all do, congratulate the 1st Linfield Scout Troop for reaching their first centenary. I myself was a member of the 1st Chatswood Scout Group in my youth, and I don't think they exist anymore in the location that they were running when I was a child, but it's very encouraging to hear that 1st Linfield is still going strong. So congratulations once again.
Thank you. If there are no further speakers on this item, I will put the minute. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. We move to petitions, and there is one, PT1, objections to the development of the 5-storey apartment block at 1 to 3 Corona Avenue, Roseville. Is there a mover for this petition? Councillor Nye.
Right, so the petition says, we residents of Corona Avenue, McLaurin Parade, Nola Road, Nola Lane, Kings Avenue and Pacific Highway, Roseville, strenuously object to the development of the 5-storey development block at 1 to 3 Corona Avenue, Roseville. Object to this development application. Reasons for the objections include, but are not limited to, exceeding height of the building limits, no plans for minimisation of residential impacts regarding demolition, excavation and construction, traffic and parking congestion, up to 40 truck movements per day, destruction of animal habitats, such as the powerful owl and other wildlife, and noise, because many people are now working from home because of COVID-19. So we suggest that the petition be received and referred to the appropriate officer of council for attention.
And there were 41 signatures for
Yes.
that. Is there a seconder for that, please? Seconded, Councillor Pettit. All those in favour? That is unanimous. We move to general business, and I invite councillors to nominate any item on the agenda that they wish to have a site inspection. None. I invite councillors to nominate any item on the agenda that they wish to adopt in accordance with the officer's recommendation, allowing for minor changes without debate. Councillor Pettit.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move GB1, the officer's recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Shadow. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move GB3, the officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder for that? Seconder, Councillor Spencer. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. GB4, the officer's recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Greenfield. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. GB5, the officer's recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Greenfield. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. GB6, the officer's recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Kelly. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
Thank you. GB7, the officer's recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
Thank you. GB8, the officer's recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Chateau. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
Thank you. GB9, the officer's recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
Thank you. GB10, the officer's recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Kelly. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
Thank you. GB12, the officer's recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour?
Apologies, Madam Mayor, I will withdraw GB12.
Yeah, sorry, Madam Mayor, I couldn't get my mute button off.
Sorry,
Already
Councillor.
gone to the vote, haven't we?
So
Please, Madam Mayor.
we're on GB11. I'm asking all those in favour of the
I believe we said GB12, wasn't it?
Oh, sorry.
Were we not? Sorry, it's a bit hard when we're only reading
GB12.
GB12.
Sorry. So, okay, GB12. So that's moved and seconded. All those in favour?
Madam Mayor,
Oh.
please.
Withdrawn. That's what you're trying to tell us, Councillor.
Thank you.
Rightio. GB14, the officer's recommendation.
GB14, Waste Collection Services.
Services.
That is seconded by Councillor Spencer. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
The late item GB15, project status, the officer's recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Kelly. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Are there any others? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move GB2, which was the community grants program. I believe one of the councillors has to leave.
Yes, indeed.
In fact, two of the yes, well, one. Yes.
No, one, I think.
Yes, that is correct.
Councillor Nye is going to depart. There we go. So GB2, that is moved by Councillor Clark.
Yep, the officer's recommendation.
Yes, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Kelly. All those in favour? That is unanimous. So we can just wait a moment to get Councillor Nye back in. Councillor Nye is there. Were there any others, Councillor Clark?
Yes, I'd like to move GB13, which I believe then another council will have to withdraw.
Councillor Kay is leaving the meeting. She is gone. So that's moved Councillor Clark, seconded Councillor Kelly. All those in favour? That is unanimous.
Thank you.
Get Councillor Kay back in. Councillor Kay is back. Were there any others?
I might as well try GB11, the officer's recommendation.
Withdrawn.
Oh, yeah, I think there's a reason it's being skipped.
Okay, that is withdrawn by Councillor Kelly.
I believe that's all of the GBs.
Yes, I think that's right. All right, councillors, that then does leave us at the point of debating GB11, proposed heritage listing of 6 Springdale Road, Killara. Is there a motion, please? Councillor Clark.
Oh, I've still got my hand up, but I'll move the motion anyways. I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation as printed.
Thank you. And that's seconded by Councillor Smith. Councillor Clark, do you wish to speak to that?
Not at this stage, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Smith, do you wish to speak to this?
I'll reserve my right. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, I will mention, as I have in previous meetings, that I used to live next door to this property, but it was over 4 years ago. I do not know the current owners, so the only people I knew were the past owners. I don't feel I have any conflict on this matter, so I'll be remaining here for the debate. Is there a speaker on this item? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. I think my what I'm going to say is probably predictable, and I think everyone's heard it all before, but I strongly oppose the listing of this property for all the reasons that have been said before. The family that live in the property want to preserve it. It's protected by a heritage conservation area. It's only come to the owner's notice that there was an interim heritage order proposed for it when they attempted to do some minor works which were consistent with the original design. They also wanted to make their house child safe, and that's a bone of contention with what they're trying to achieve. So from a point of view of the negative impact this has had on the family's life, they've basically given up trying to do anything with the property while this is in limbo, and it's just negatively impacting a young family's life in a manner that I think is absolutely atrocious. And I think we should all think very carefully about how we vote on items like this. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers on this item? If not, I'll ask Councillor Clark if he wishes to sum up, please.
Well, there's not much to sum up, is there? Look, we've debated this a number of times. I think we've all been through the motions a number of times, so I'm glad to see it finally moving on, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. In that case, I will put the officer's recommendation, which has been moved by Councillor Clark. All those in favour? That is Councillors Clark, Shatter, Smith, Greenfield, Anderson. Against, Councillors Kelly, Pettit, Spencer, Nye and Kay. The voting being equal, I will use my casting vote in favour of the motion. That is carried. We move now to GB 12, proposed synthetic field at Norman Griffith Sports Ground, West Pinball. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Pettit.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder for that? Seconded Councillor Kelly. Councillor Pettit.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This has been a bit of a long road for this particular proposal. This time last year, we were looking at, almost 12 months ago, looking at converting Mimosa to a synthetic field, which was soundly opposed and vociferously opposed by the residents. And at that particular meeting back in November, a motion was to not proceed with Mimosa and actually proceed with Norman Griffiths. Norman Griffiths was the preferred location. It is for the West Pinball Football Club. It is for the West Pinball Bicentennial Club and all the sporting precinct there. In February of this year, we had a unanimous vote to proceed with investigations of a synthetic field at Norman Griffith. So all 10 of us agreed that this was a good idea to proceed and have a good look at it. It's been a long time coming. We're there to provide as much sporting facilities as possible. For those councillors that would have visited Norman Griffiths during the most recent football season would have noticed how quickly the field deteriorated. There was virtually no grass 4 to 6 weeks after the commencement, and it was a delayed commencement of the football season. And we'd had only one wet weekend. This field really needs to be converted. We have got thousands of people using it, not just the West Pinball Football Club, but a large number of other clubs using this field on a regular basis. So councillors, we can either be seen as a council that wants to do things or not. The residents are crying out for it. The footballers are crying out for it. It is our key sporting precinct. I would hope that you would support this initiative. Our state members are supportive of it. The Football Association is supportive of it. The wider football community is supportive of it. We've seen other synthetic fields built and converted. Charles Bean, the one in Northbridge. These are all very well utilised facilities. For those that might have been down in Canada Bay, at Majors Bay, they have built a synthetic football field. And that, once again, is hugely popular and well utilised. Even down in the Sutherland Shire, they have a synthetic field on the main highway there. And again, well utilised, great facilities. So it's about time Ku-ring-gai actually had similar facilities. Something that we can all be proud of. Once it's built, I'll say, councillors, well done. You had the vision, you had the foresight, you had the courage to get it built. If you look at the West Pinball Aquatic Centre, we all thought that that might not have been quite as successful. It took a lot of money, it took a lot of courage by previous councillors to actually get that up and running. That is a wonderful facility that's well patronised. All we do now is just bolt on Norman Griffiths and have that as the premier football facility within our LGA. So councillors, I would implore you, the footballers want it. We now have the Women's World Cup coming up shortly. So let's do what we can to improve our sporting facilities. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Greenfield.
As seconded, don't I get a chance to speak?
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Kelly. It would help if you put your light on as well. Please go ahead, Councillor Kelly.
I'd like to echo Councillor Pettit's comments. He said most of the things that I would have said anyway, but I think emphasise particularly the fact that we should try and get something built in our term of office, particularly an extended term of office, and this is probably a less than significant task, and I say that comparatively to things like the Linfield Village Hub or any of the other Turramurra Hub and other projects that are enormously expensive and take a lot more research and project management. So I will just again echo Councillor Pettit's endorsement of this project and add my own to it and commend it to the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Greenfield, you are the next speaker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to add an option D to the recommendation. I didn't send it through. I'm not sure if we can pop it up on the screen.
I'll just ask staff. There we go.
So option D for National Parks and Wildlife as a stakeholder are consulted throughout the development of the project. Now, within the GB, National Parks has asked that they be consulted through the project. I have spoken to staff and they're quite comfortable with this addition to the recommendation.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. May I raise a point of order? Sorry, not to cause any trouble. If this is an amendment, she would have to say it's an amendment, get a seconder and then speak to it.
That's
right. That's the correct procedure.
Yes.
I think she's just having it put up, Councillor Greenfield's just having it put up on the screen and explaining it so that I can seek a seconder unless the mover of the motion is happy to incorporate.
Madam Mayor, I'm quite happy to incorporate that point into the motion.
Thank you. And is the seconder happy for that too? Councillor Kelly is indicating so. Thank you, Councillor Greenfield. It looks very straightforward. Did you have anything else you wanted to say, Councillor Greenfield?
No, just that I felt that this is an example of council working with National Parks to ensure that we don't have any environmental impacts as we move forward with putting these synthetic fields into our LGA.
Thank you, Councillor Greenfield. So that's incorporated. Councillor Spencer is the next speaker.
Oh, thank you. I think this is a great opportunity, and I thank Councillor Greenfield for incorporating that the consultation with the wildlife. This is a great location for the synthetic field. Synthetic field is not just used by the soccer clubs. It's widely used by the wider community for walking and so on. And as we saw from the submissions before COVID, I think there were some suggestions as to the opportunities where a synthetic field would bring about, and it ranges from exercises, Tai Chi, and all those things. That was when they were talking about Norman. No, not Norman Griffiths, the other one. So the same applies here, and I think this is a great opportunity. And again, just to echo what Councillor Kelly has said, this is a great opportunity for us to deliver something. We're in existence to deliver facilities, and sporting facilities is really good for our youth and the teenagers that's using such facilities. And I'm really encouraging my fellow councillors to support this staff recommendation to have this going. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Chatto.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I just have a few questions that folk has raised about this and about the environmental impact. Perhaps if I could direct those questions to Director Watson. They point out that synthetic turf is made of plastic, and over time it breaks down into smaller particles, allowing runoff. Also that recycled non-biodegradable tyre crumb rubber is used in the infill, which is topped up regularly to the base, and that over time these particles will leach lead and zinc through wind and rain. Could Director Watson please respond to these accusations?
Director Watson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I do have to point out that unfortunately this submission was not received during the submission period. It was a late submission, and also there was no submission made by folk that I'm aware of to the public forum. So staff haven't had a lot of time to deal with these matters, given they were only circulated well after 3 o'clock this afternoon. Now, in terms of the speculator Councillor Chatto has referred to, some time ago, councillors got a briefing on the work that Macquarie University had carried out in relation to a number of synthetic fields in the North District, including Eaton Road. And it's certainly undeniable that the plastic grass material does over time wear and is potentially available for distribution off-site. Now, when particularly at Eaton Road, when that work was done by Macquarie University, the movement of the grass material off-site was extremely limited and to a very limited area, both quantity and quantity. So we will learn from those mistakes, and we've said that we put in pits to effectively catch that material if it does move off-site. But the experience down at Eaton Road was very limited. Now, in terms of the fill material to which Councillor Chatto refers, we've said a number of times in relation to both this site and the proposal at Mimosa that was unsuccessful, that we weren't intending to use a rubber crumb infill. We were looking at using cork. So any of the arguments about exporting of zinc and other heavy metals and non-biodegradable materials in respect of the infill simply don't hold up.
Yes, thank you, Director Watson. I do recall being briefed about these about the rubber, and there will be a tank. I was just looking in my notes here. There will be a tank that will deal with the plastic. Is that right? A retention tank.
Director, you're on mute.
The new system there, I'll get used to it eventually. The tank is to deal with the detention capacity that would otherwise exist at the playing field, but there would be other pits and traps to collect any solid material that might move across or off the site in an extreme event. Now, the big difference between when this matter was first considered by council and when it was more recently considered by council earlier this year was that we designed that tank and that system for a 1% event rather than a 2% event. So we're expecting, though we can never guarantee, we're expecting very little movement, if any, off-site. Hopefully none. You might get a bit of relocation of some of the infill material within the site, but certainly we're not proposing that it will go off the site, no.
Right, so that's the Jacobs proposed Hume storm trap option.
That's correct. That's correct.
Excellent.
Now, we've been careful not to commit to a specific proprietary product, but that is the approach. That design is effectively what we've recommended, though there may be other componentry in the market that could effectively serve the same purpose. But that's the idea of going to design and construct an environmental review, so that we can actually, some of the other issues raised by some of the other submissions, can be positively addressed and fed into that process.
Excellent, thank you, Director Watson. Yes, when I looked at this, I thought, well, we have the funds to do it now, which is serendipitous, and we've got the National Parks and Wildlife on board, and I'm very much supportive of Councillor Greenfield's addition D to this, because I think it's a good idea to have them on board. So I'm happy to support this. Thank you.
The next speaker is Councillor Nye.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would first like to really encourage all councillors to support this motion. As we know, I was one of the people who objected to Mimosa about a year ago. And one of my reasons for rejecting doing this project at Mimosa was, first of all, the West Pinball Football Club has for a long time been seeking to have this project done at Norman Griffiths. It is their home ground. It's a much better location. It has extra parking. It has extra synthetic, well, it has extra natural grass options around there for other residents to do their recreation, even if there was a synthetic turf there. It's close to Bicentennial Park and Ku-ring-gai Fitness and Aquatic Centre. So it's a much better location to have it here at Norman Griffiths than at Mimosa. I know it does come with a little bit of additional extra cost, but ultimately we as councillors, we're trying to build something that will benefit our community without necessarily causing the kind of disturbances that we were seeing about a year ago with Mimosa. I know that we as a council have built other similar projects with Charles Bean in Linfield and also with the similar oval in NTRA. It's been great for our sporting community. I've personally had various residents come up to me and ask whether or not they can see more of these built across Ku-ring-gai. And I believe that if we can find the right place, right location, and have the environmental aspects sorted out, then why not? Why not go ahead with it? So I'd encourage all councillors to support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Kay, you're the next speaker.
Okay, mine's more of just a comment. So I do support the recommendation. I think this is a positive asset for the community, and I think it's actually great to see that the grant funding is being used for the sports ground that it was originally intended for. But I'd also like to say thank you to the staff that have been working really hard on this alternative and coming up with an additional option other than Mimosa. So I believe that would come under Director Watson's team. So thank you, Director Watson and your team. So I am hoping that the majority of councillors here today do support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just ask Director Watson in relation to an email that I received this afternoon, and I believe it was a follow-up email to a formal submission that was received earlier, but it raised the point from the person's point of view that the costs involved at this one site raised questions of equity for other locations and other sports in the LGA. And I note Councillor Nye has referred to a little bit of additional cost to put this facility at this location. I believe it's possibly something like doubled or tripled the price for this location to be utilised. But we have very few options for locations for synthetic fields. But in the interest of transparency, Director Watson, could you make comment about the concerns raised by Emma?
Through you, Madam Mayor, those comments are quite valid. This was always a project that was effectively being dictated by cost, and that's why we moved to Mimosa more than 12 months ago. Now, you know, for various reasons, we were asked to come back and investigate Norman Griffiths, which was always the preferred location. And as you know, Councillor Pettit alluded to earlier, it's effectively a fairly intensively used sporting precinct anyway. So we're really building on the strengths of that precinct. But what's really allowed us to effectively fund this project was the couple of ministerial orders which allow council to redirect Section 94 funds, which might otherwise be considered, you know, a lazy asset. So what we've done here is we've taken some money that was allocated for synthetic field elsewhere in the north of Ku-ring-gai, in the north precinct, being the nursery site, and we've taken a small portion of that to add to this project. Now, it has got to be pointed out that the money that the soccer club has brought to the table is nearly $1 million, and that is only available for a synthetic field. So in the event the council decides not to do a synthetic field, their funding wouldn't be available for a turf upgrade, and the cash money the council has available, you know, would borderline cover you know, a turf upgrade without the complex drainage issues of the site being resolved. So you're quite right. There are very few locations where we can put a synthetic field. This is one where we think we can manage the environmental impacts. There is a dearth of parking on site. The club, this is their home ground, and the funding issues, you know, thanks to COVID or not, a couple of those ministerial orders effectively have allowed us to cross that last barrier, being the funding barrier.
Thank you, Director. I note Councillor Shadow and Councillor Kay have their lights on.
Yes, I have a couple of other questions, Madam Mayor. This is a gender equity question directed, I guess, to Director Watson. I notice the West Pinball Football Club, Northern Suburbs Football Association, are the people that are going to benefit mostly from this field. Do I assume that they have large numbers of girls playing football as well as boys? Because I know that the hockey was going to benefit from a field that was going to be at the nursery site, which of course now it's not an appropriate site, and hockey is predominantly played by girls, by women. So it was just a concern, because I know there's been a lot of talk lately about the fact that we don't have a gender equity budget, and there's been a lot of talk of women's jobs have been severely impacted by COVID-19, and I think as councillors we need to look at gender equity issues as well. I don't know if Director Watson can answer this or not, but I thought I'd put it on the table.
Through you, Madam Mayor, on the fly, I'm not able to tell you the number of female members of that particular club, though I do recall on a number of occasions a number of female members of that club came and addressed council. So I'm assuming it's not an insignificant number. In terms of your reference to the synthetic hockey field at the nursery site, that's effectively the project that has been shifted across to Barra Brewery, and it's separately being dealt with through that process. So it was never intended that there would be two synthetic hockey fields in the north. The nursery site has gone to Barra Brewery, and that will, you know, progress on its own merits. But you know, council provides facilities, and the clubs will roster their membership, you know, accordingly. But certainly we had a number of female members of that club stand before council and say they had been injured because of the poor quality of that ground. Admittedly, there was also females on the other side of that argument as well.
Thank you, Director Watson.
I would add too that Ms. Plant has mentioned in her submissions to council that often without a synthetic field, the men's matches go ahead on the Saturday and the women's are cancelled on the Sunday because the turf fields can't hold up if the conditions haven't been good the day prior. So certainly in terms of gender equity, she was very keen to see a synthetic field, and she certainly mentioned the vast increase in women's football playing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good to hear.
If there are no further speakers on this, I will ask Councillor Pettit to sum up, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's been very encouraging to hear all the comments coming from the various councillors. It was all very positive. We certainly have the wonderful opportunity to provide a great sporting facility, not only for the males, but also for the females. The female numbers within West Pinball are continuing to grow. I would recommend those that are on Facebook, follow West Pinball Football Club and Kissing Point and all the various football clubs, and you will see how much this sport means to so many people of both sexes. When this facility is up and running, you will see that the growth within the area will spill over into the West Pinball Bicentennial Club. It is a wonderful opportunity to go down, watch your local football team, whatever age group, and then just walk across the road, have lunch there, enjoy the facilities that are available in this precinct. So I would highly recommend that all councillors support this particular motion. Thank you.
I will put Councillor Pettit's motion now. All those in favour? That is unanimous. We now move to extra reports circulated to the meeting. General Manager.
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We move now to motions of which due notice has been given. NM1, Draft Housing Strategy for Ku-ring-gai. Notice of rescission from Councillors Spencer, Nye, Kay, Kelly and Pettit, dated the 22nd of September 2020. Is there a mover? Councillor Spencer? You're on mute, Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the staff has a copy of the notice of motion. Should I read the notice of motion and then speak to it after?
Rescission, so.
Yes, correct. It is, and is the rescission is now an M1.
Yes.
How would you like me to proceed with this, Mayor?
Is it as printed?
Yes, it is as printed, and then there's some recommendation should the rescission be successful.
Might just ask the General Manager if we need to go that far at this point.
Madam Mayor and councillors, I don't think so. I think in the first instance we just debate the merits of the rescission, but I'm happy for the corporate lawyer to add any comments if he sees fit.
All right. Just see if Mr. Taylor has any comments to make.
Mayor and councillors, the motion the notice of rescission as printed gave notice of an intended rescission. So if it's being moved as printed, then the debate would be limited to rescission of the previous decision. Because the subject matter of the rescission is on the business paper, it would then be open to councillors to move other business, which might be a further decision replacing the previous decision if it was rescinded.
All right. Thank you. So, Councillor Spencer, at this point, we're just dealing with the rescission as printed. You're moving it, and I need a seconder for that. Seconded, Councillor Kelly.
All right, thank you. May I just seek clarification? So we will first debate the rescission, and then should the rescission be successful, we will put in the recommendation after the rescission. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. General Manager?
Madam Mayor and Councillors, that's correct. So if the rescission is successful, you have a blank canvas and you can replace it with any substantive motion that you see fit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Spencer, you may speak to your rescission.
Madam Mayor, just a question, if I may ask. In the past, we used to have a rescission notice presented which says, and if this rescission is successful, we propose the following, and we used to put that up here on the screen at council meetings. What's changed between past practice and now?
Well, I will refer your question on past practice to the General Manager.
Madam Mayor and Councillors, councillors are at liberty to put that in the prayer as part of their rescission, but even if it was printed as part of the prayer in the rescission, they cannot debate it in the first part that we're dealing with now.
All right, the General Manager, I'm sorry, did I cut into Councillor Nye?
Well, General Manager has answered Councillor Nye's question, so back to you, Councillor Spencer.
Right, so sorry, just to follow on Councillor Nye's question to the General Manager. We are not debating the second part, but could we have that on screen, please?
Point of order, what would the possible relevancy be if you're not allowed to debate it? How would having it there
so
be, if anything?
So if the General Manager could clarify that, please.
Yes, General Manager.
Madam Mayor and Councillors, again, the corporate lawyer may wish to add, but in my view, there's nothing that would prohibit it. The principle here is all about relevance in debate, and whilst it's on screen, if it's not being debated, I don't see a problem with it.
That's right. It's not being debated, but we just want to have it on screen, please.
Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. I concur with the General Manager's suggestion in that case, on that point. Obviously, relevance is something that the Chair is entitled to control during the debate, but there's no prima facie objection to that information being placed before the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Perhaps Councillor Spencer will just have the information that you're referring to, and we'll see if we can get that up on the screen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
There we go. It's there. Would you now like to speak to your rescission, please?
Yes, thank you. So firstly, let me clarify this. There has been a long-standing understanding at common law that a rescission is the revocation, cancellation, or repeal of a law, order, or agreement. If the rescission motion is carried, notwithstanding the fact that the Mayor has the casting vote with a block of 5, it simply unwinds the Mayor minute and it does nothing positive or negative to deny or accept the Greater Sydney Commission housing targets. Madam Mayor, between you, me, and the staff, I believe we all want the same thing for the constituents of Ku-ring-gai, and that is no 20-story buildings in Gordon, no 15-story buildings in Taramara and Linfield. The rescission motion was lodged by 5 councillors, and we each have our own reasons. I shall deal with mine as follows. I argued in a meeting of 22nd September that the Mayor minute for the draft housing strategy for Ku-ring-gai was loose. I questioned at length what recommendation A was, and I asked for a description as to what the current capacity was in our planning instruments. I received no answer. Then, in recommendation B, it says that amendments to the draft housing strategy documents be made in accordance with attachment A7 of GB 15, where they are not in conflict with A. Here, Madam Mayor, we have to remember that GB 15 was the recommendation that had 20 stories for Gordon and 15 stories for Tarramurra and Linfield. They were all written in a 596-page report. So, what amendments were supposed to be made and what weren't? And the Mayor Minute went on to recommendations C and D to allow Council to adopt the housing strategy as amended to be submitted to the Department of Planning for approval. I cannot accept that. I equate that to signing a blank check. I feel I need to know, and the constituents need to know, what we are doing with our housing strategy. We need to know exactly how many dwellings are in our current capacity. What we are amending from the 596-page report of GB 15. Don't forget, it still has 15 and 20-story buildings in them. We need to know what housing strategy this council is actually adopting and what version of the housing strategy we are submitting to the Department of Planning. In this rescission motion, I'm recommending for the purpose of good governance and social responsibility for Ku-ring-gai, that this motion will have no effect unless and until every amendment listed in A, B, C, and D is fully itemized, accounted for, described, and made available for public viewing online. And this motion is brought back to Council for approval at the December 2020 or February 2021 meeting before commencing E, F, and G. In addition, the powers given to the General Manager and Director Strategy and Environment in G to correct any inconsistencies or errors in the housing strategy prior to submission to the Department of Planning is limited to non-substantive changes and be approved by the Mayor and Deputy Mayor. As you can see, Madam Mayor, we are all on the same page with your Mayor Minute. We are against further development in Ku-ring-gai. We are providing safety measures in the rescission motion. It is called transparency, not a 20-story building. And I ask my fellow councillors to support this rescission motion. And if it is successful, please consider the recommendations. And you are most welcome to make suggestions to the amendments if this rescission is successful. Thank you.
We might just get that off the screen now, perhaps, so I can see who's next on the list. But we move to the seconder, who was Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. Well, I agree with everything Councillor Spencer said. However, that wasn't the reason for why I'm a signatory to the rescission notice that was submitted last meeting.
I'm sorry, point of order was, I'm sorry, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Nye seconded the...
It was actually Councillor Kelly who beat me to it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Councillor
Kelly.
Okay.
I'm quick off the mark. I had a concern with the mayoral minute tabled at the last meeting based on paragraph 9.9 of the Code of Meeting Practice. And for those who don't have it in front of them, and I don't know why they wouldn't, paragraph 9.9 says a mayoral minute must not be used to put without notice matters that are routine and not urgent, or matters for which proper notice should be given because of their complexity. And I believe this is a complex matter, and maybe that's...
Madam Mayor, I object.
Object.
Is there a point of order, Councillor Smith?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, point of order, please.
Yes, what is your point of order?
I object to Councillor Kelly basically saying the complex matter, because it wasn't a complex matter. He had 3 years to learn.
Thank you, but I'm
entitled to my opinion.
Yes, that's debating. We'll return to Councillor Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm passing my opinion here, and I'm entitled to my opinion, and I'll continue airing it. Thank you. The document, I'll start again because I'm quoting out of a document. Paragraph 9.9 of the Code of Meeting Practice states, a mayoral minute must not be used to put without notice matters that are routine and not urgent, or matters for which proper notice should be given because of their complexity. For the purpose of this clause, a matter will be urgent where it requires a decision by the council before the next scheduled ordinary meeting of the council, end of quote. So apart from the other concerns, some of which Councillor Spencer has articulated, those were my particular concerns. And unfortunately, I didn't have a copy of the Code of Meeting Practice open because where I attend these meetings and whatever is a long way from where I do my usual council work. But I knew there was something that was bothering me about it, and which is why I agreed to the signing of the rescission motion. The unfortunate thing about all of this and this particular rescission notice is, I'm not sure this can be seen, but there's been a bit of angst in the community, and that's probably not going to show up very well, but there's been letterbox drops and all sorts of disgusting emails sent to those who were co-signatories to the rescission notice. And I think that's because the majority of the community were either misled or misunderstood the purpose of a rescission notice. And I'm sure those people won't be watching tonight, and I'm sure those who sent the disgusting emails and whatever don't write an apology, which I think those who receive them are entitled to. But that's basically it in a nutshell. Those were my reasons for signing the rescission notice and for me seconding it this evening. Thank you.
Before I ask for the next speaker, and I might refer your concern about the validity of a mayoral minute at last month's meeting to the corporate lawyer, because I think you have a misunderstanding of the regulations in regard to the appropriateness of that at the last meeting. Mr. Taylor.
Mayor and councillors, it's a moot argument now because obviously the previous meeting has concluded. But Councillor Kelly's, the point Councillor Kelly makes about the Code of Meeting Practice is quite correct. But what could be noted about the agenda of the previous meeting was that the draft housing strategy was actually an item of business. Public notice had been given of that subject matter, and the resolution passed as a result of the mayoral minute could have been moved as a motion on that report in a perfectly orderly fashion. So any principle about public notice of the business of a mayoral minute is really answered by the presence of that report on the agenda.
And if I might respond to that, I understand that Mr. Taylor and I agree with you, obviously, because you're professional, but my purpose was right why it was tabled as a mayoral minute. That was my concern. Thank you.
Well, it's possible, as Mr. Taylor has said, to be tabled as a mayoral minute. It was on the agenda, just as amendments were tabled during that meeting with no notice. And of course, these sort of things occur as proper meeting procedure at every meeting. No notice is required for that activity to occur. I'll also refer the comments made by Councillor Spencer about governance and the relation of it to the resolution that Council made as a result of the mayoral minute in September. Mr. Taylor did helpfully provide some legal advice that he gave permission for me to quote to any residents who had been misled about the mayoral minute and its proper process and the ability for our council officers to exercise appropriate governance in the implementation of the council resolution. If Mr. Taylor has that in front of him, he could refer to what he told me. Otherwise, I can read it, but I'll ask Mr. Taylor if he wants to deal with that first.
Madam Mayor, I don't have a document in front of me now. I do recall providing that advice to you.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. May I seek clarification as to what I raised in relation to governance?
No, I'm not going to clarify for you what you raised. You've raised a matter. I'm referring it to the corporate lawyer, Mr. Taylor.
Well, you said I raised something. I'd like to know what it was.
Spencer, you're out of order.
I don't understand because you can't put things to me.
I'm calling you to order for the first time. Councillor.
Well, I need the general manager to clarify this.
No, I am saying no. You are out of order. You do not have the call. Mr. Taylor.
Madam Mayor, I don't have the document in front of me, but the comment I provided to you was basically that for a council resolution to be capable of implementation, it needs to be sufficiently clear in meaning for staff to be able to carry it out, because staff don't have a policy function. It's the council that sets the policy. But in terms of giving effect to the decision, council can, the staff can put a document together, provided the intention of the council is sufficiently clear. In relation to the business that you were referring to, I believe during the debate, Director Watson was in fact asked by one of the councillors whether the motion before the meeting was sufficiently clear for implementation, and Mr. Watson expressed the opinion at the time that he thought it was. And of course, subsequently, council resolved in that manner. I think that was mainly the point I made in comment to you.
Yes.
Sorry, point of order.
Point of order, Councillor Spencer.
Seek clarification from someone who.
No, that is not a point of order. That is a question. You do not have the call.
You can't put something to me which no. Sorry, Madam Mayor. This is a common law country. You want to accuse someone of something, you need to provide evidence. You can't accuse me of saying something I had said without telling me what it was.
Councillor Spencer, you're out of order.
I have a common law right to know what I'm being accused of. The corporate lawyers there, tell me what I'm being accused of. There are people viewing this meeting. You tell me what I'm being accused of.
Councillor,
you are not telling me what I'm being accused of.
Councillor Spencer, you are out of order for the third time. Be silent or you will be out of this meeting. I will take a vote by the councillors on the floor if you don't refrain from intervening. You are accusing me of doing something without telling me what. You can't arrest someone for not telling them what they're arrested for. You are accusing me of saying something, but you're not telling me what I said. You take a vote now. If you want to kick me out of this meeting for accusing me of saying something and not telling me what I have said, you take a vote right now. There are people viewing this meeting. There are people from the public viewing this meeting. You have shut me up, not allowing me to question what you are accusing me of. People are listening. This is recorded. You are aware of that, right? This is recorded. Councillor Spencer, you are
and it will be recorded and live for 4 years, Madam Mayor.
Yes, indeed, Councillor.
That's right. Call a vote now. Call a vote now. I would like to see which other councillor will support this motion for you to accuse someone without telling someone what they are being accused of and get kicked out. Call a vote now. Kick me out of this meeting right now.
Sit here and let you rant, or we can wait for you to have the call at the appropriate.
No, you tell me what I'm being accused of. You are not telling me. You're telling me to shut up. You are saying I'm out of order. What am I being accused of?
You are interjecting when you do not have the call.
All right, tell me what I'm being accused of.
I will continue with the meeting, and I will say thank you, Mr. Taylor, for that comment. And just to reinforce that, I have
what am I being accused of?
I will be reading this out to all residents for clarity, because there have been councillors who have raised the issue of poor governance or oversight, the role of the General Manager and the staff in implementing a council resolution, in being able
Who said that? You said Councillor Spencer said that. I don't recall me saying that.
Well, we'll get a transcript of what you've just said.
I have the transcript.
Do not interject. Councillor...
you are suggesting that I can protest my innocence?
You've had...
Do you realize this is not a dictatorship, Madam Mayor? Yes.
It's also not an option for councillors to just interject.
That it is not an option for you to accuse someone of doing something. You have to retract your you have to retract what you're accusing me of. You have to retract that.
Are you asking to be removed from the meeting, Councillor
No,
Spencer?
I'm not telling you to stop accusing people of doing something, like how you have accused people of saying something when they have not.
All right. Mr. Taylor, I will quote, who has said, "The elected body of council is responsible for setting policy direction, and the administrative staff of council have a role of implementing that policy. Of course, for staff to act pursuant to a resolution of council, the resolution must be sufficiently certain in meaning. During the debate of MM1 at the September council meeting, I recall staff were asked if the motion was sufficiently certain in meaning for staff to be able to carry out a resolution in those terms. And Mr. Watson, Director Strategy and Environment, informed the meeting that he considered it to be so. Council subsequently resolved accordingly. As you know, it is not usual for every document drafted pursuant to a council resolution to be tabled at a subsequent council meeting prior to being put to use. In the circumstances, it is apparent that the delegation of staff contained in the resolution arising from the mayoral minute is limited to a task of drafting amendments to the existing draft to reflect explicit requirements of the resolution and do not amount to a delegation of the policy-making function of council."
You have not said what Councillor Spencer said.
I hope that has clarified for all who've sought to raise issues of governance and
what did Councillor Spencer say?
Function of the staff in operational terms to implement council's resolutions, which of course can take place at every single meeting of council and has done so for 3 years minimum of the councillors who have been witness to their roles on council for that term, and for many other councillors for much longer than that. I will move to the next speaker, Councillor Nye.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The draft housing strategy is the single most important decision that we will make this council term, and it is important that we get it right. It forms the basis to upcoming changes to council's local environment plan, which we hope will last for the next 10 years, and it drives conversations with the state and federal governments regarding investment in local infrastructure such as schools, roads, transport, recreational facilities, and health. But before we talk about why we sought to rescind the Mayor's motion on housing, we must first talk about what happened in the last council meeting. The webcast and minutes of the September council meeting makes it very clear that all 10 councillors opposed excessive building heights. The webcast and minutes of the September council meeting makes it very clear that all 10 councillors had listened to residents when they received over 1,000 emails asking for councillors to reject the 10 to 20-storey heights proposed not by the state government but by council staff. However, the 10 councillors disagreed on how to best explore the housing needs of our residents over the next 10 years. The housing strategy affects all Ku-ring-gai residents, yet the councillors had only received submissions or emails from 1% of the population. Because of this low engagement, our group of 5 councillors put a joint motion that more reasonable low height scenarios be developed and communicated to every household by mail. You see, there are ways to meet the diverse housing needs of our residents without destroying the character or heritage of our area. Unfortunately, our joint motion was narrowly defeated with the use of the Mayor's casting vote. It is a terrible blow for residents who want to live closer to our parks or downsize while staying in the area, and we must therefore, unfortunately, move on. Instead, the Mayor's proposal to make absolutely no changes to our planning controls for the next 10 years was one that narrowly succeeded with the use of the Mayor's casting vote. We 5 councillors had serious concerns about this approach, and our reasons for putting the implementation on hold for a month via rescission are as follows. First, the Mayor's approach allowed council staff to make unspecified changes to the 596-page draft housing strategy, much of which supported significant increases in dwellings. The updated legal document would then go directly to the Department of Planning without any further review or scrutiny from either councillors or members of the public. This approach is very dangerous because if our council unintentionally lodges a document with mistakes in it, it may unnecessarily open up Ku-ring-gai to the increased potential of spot rezoning. This approach is very dangerous because if developers get hold of an erroneous housing strategy, they can exploit elements of the document to support their planning proposals to increase building heights while arguing that it is consistent with the housing strategy formally lodged with the department. And despite our council staff's best intentions, mistakes can easily be made and we can create a Trojan horse for developers. For example, our draft document has noticeable discrepancies on how much remaining capacity our current planning controls support. On page 17, it says that we have remaining capacity of 2,680, but on the following page, it says that we have remaining capacity of 1,600. Jump to page 90 of the technical document, and it says that Ku-ring-gai has a potential of 5,602, and the corrected version in attachment A7 implies a combined 4,131. So what's the correct number? That can be explored another time, but our point here is that the public and their elected representatives deserve to know what it is that will be lodged with the Department of Planning. I believe we will be forfeiting our responsibilities as councillors if we allow submission of the document without our final review, and if an inadequately reviewed document paves way for unsympathetic spot rezoning in Ku-ring-gai, then we as councillors are ultimately accountable. Councillors, with great power comes great responsibility. And whilst I am sympathetic of what we are all trying to achieve here to protect the character of Ku-ring-gai, the ends does not justify the means. I encourage all councillors to support this rescission because we cannot, indeed, we must not submit the housing strategy to the Department of Planning without appropriate oversight and scrutiny from the councillors and the public. Thank you.
The next speaker is Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep this hopefully brief because, look, we debated this for hours and hours last council meeting. And just because you didn't like an outcome is not a reason to put up a rescission. Look, it's been brought up a number of times that we don't know what we're giving, that it's a blank check. What we're giving is what we currently have. The 2012 LEP is effectively what we're putting forward. If you don't understand that at this stage, I really don't know what to tell you. You've had 8 years to understand that document. This is not a confusing thing that we're doing here. Our current housing strategy that we currently have will be the housing strategy going forward. I believe the director made it clear, Director Watson, that this is what we were proposing at the previous council meeting. It's not like we're giving some blank check for council staff to just randomly come up with whatever they want. They can just put it on a page and submit it and it's all going to be okay. That was never what was being proposed. It's never what council staff said that they understood from the motion. It's been very confusing that it keeps getting brought up that there's going to be some, mysterious new targets and typos filled out if councillors aren't there with their magnifying glass going through every page. These are documents that have been publicly available for years. So it's just confusing at this stage why people keep saying that. So I see no good reason to bring up this rescission at all. We had a spirited debate last council meeting. We came to a conclusion. If you don't like it, well, unfortunately, that's the way it goes. But I think that we've got a position going forward. It's a very clear position going forward. And yeah, I see no reason for this rescission to go forward, and I won't be voting for it.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. The next speaker, Councillor Kelly, have you got a question?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm curious if Councillor Spencer could repeat what it was he said that was contentious, because I missed it.
A question to Councillor Spencer. Councillor Spencer.
I do not know.
All right. The next speaker is Councillor Smith.
Madam Mayor, I'm still trying to understand what the movers of the rescission are really trying to make out here, because at the end of the day, the mayoral minute was moved. A motion was not to add any additional targets to our housing strategy. Obviously, the movers of the rescission want additional targets. It's quite straightforward. I can't understand what the argument is about here.
Thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Shadow.
I'm sorry, was that a question for the mover, which is me?
No, it was a comment. He can't understand what you're doing.
Thank you.
Councillor Shadow, you're the next speaker.
Madam Mayor, I think we've had 2 for and 2 against.
We have, I think.
Madam Mayor, councillors, you've had for the rescission, Councillors Spencer, Kelly and I, and against Councillors Clark and Smith.
We have. Councillor Chateau, you may want to move that the motion be put, but before you do, I would like to point out that despite what any of the debate has been on this rescission, that Council had the rescission publicly available for scrutiny. It received through our public forum process 4 only submissions in favour of it. All 4 submissions in favour were from property developers or their agents. I think that is extremely telling, and our community are very wise to be concerned when that is the only support that those moving the rescission find. Councillor Shadow, if you now wish to move that the motion be put, you are at liberty to do so.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just feel as though we have talked about this ad nauseum, really. Yes, please, I would like the motion to be put.
Is there a seconder for that? Seconded Councillor Clark. All those in favour? That is Councillors Clark, Chateau, Smith, Greenfield, Anderson. Against? That is Councillors Kelly, Pettit, Spencer, Nye, Kay. The votes being equal, I use my casting vote in favour of Councillor Chateau's motion. That is carried. Therefore, I invite the mover, Councillor Spencer, to sum up, please.
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. I will tell you what the inconsistencies or the query as to what the rescission is for and what looks like a blank check. Recommendation A in the mayoral minute, it says, Council's housing strategy to be amended to reflect provisions of new dwellings to 2036 from within the current planning instruments. It doesn't say what, how many, what kind, and so on. And I believe in the last meeting, even one of your supporters of the mayoral minute, Councillor Greenfield, asked what was that about. Now, recommendation B goes on to say that the amendments to the draft housing strategy in accordance with attachment A of GB 15, where they are not in conflict with A above, be put. Which part is not in conflict? A comma, a full stop, a spelling error, what? C, that council adopt their housing strategy as amended. What is amended? It doesn't say. Data housing strategy as amended. Again, it doesn't say what is amended. Don't you want to know what is amended? Now then D, it went on again. I will tell you why there are a number of emails that you receive are saying support the amendment, support the amendment. It's because, again, Madam Mayor, you are putting out to say that this rescission is putting 20-story buildings. It doesn't. I have said so. A rescission, in my speech, I have said so. There has been a long-standing understanding at common law that a rescission is a revocation, cancellation, or repeal of a law, order, or agreement. Now, if the rescission motion is carried, notwithstanding the fact that you have a block of 5 and you're casting vote, it simply unwinds, brings this mayoral minute, right? To a halt. It does nothing positive or negative. And that is why we have that second part there that says, if the rescission is successful, and it's on screen, the recommendations are, and there it is, the recommendations are for the mayoral minute to be withheld. It's not saying to put 20-story buildings. Now here I strongly encourage the four councillors, Greenfield, Smith, Clark, and Chateau, to support the mayor in knocking down this rescission. Go ahead, sign this blank check. Shut this rescission down and do away with proper governance. Put all this amendment, whatever it is, into the planning department without even looking at what the amendment looked like. I encourage you to support this mayor and use a casting vote to put this, whatever it is, to the planning department. It may be 15 stories, it may be 1 story. We don't know what it is. Thank you.
Thank you for your sum up, Councillor Spencer. I will put your rescission motion now. All those in favour? That is Councillors Kelly, Pettit, Spencer, Nye, Kay. Against? That is Councillors Clark, Chateau, Smith, Greenfield, Anderson. The votes being equal, I use my casting vote against the rescission. That is lost. Thank you, councillors. And of course, now that that rescission has been lost, the resolution from last month's meeting is now able to be implemented by our staff. They cannot implement something until there is a resolution. Now that there is, the staff will produce the document and everybody will be able to see it. We move to councillors who have business without notice, subject to clause 9.3 of the Code of Meeting Practice. There is one question with notice, but has anybody got any questions without notice? None. The question with notice is QN1, expenditure in 2018 report as printed. There are, I believe, no inspections organised. Therefore, there being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 8:30 p.m. Thank you all for your attendance.
Thank you.